This is The Recap, a weekly reflection on the sermons of Fellowship Baptist Church in Mainville, Ohio, seeking to help you make Jesus essential in every aspect of your life. I'm your host, Ryan Land, and I'm here with the preacher of this week's sermon, Brent Wilson. Brent, welcome back.
Good to be back.
A new sermon series, and here we are.
Better weather.
New books.
New books.
My plant died.
Shorts.
My plant died.
Oh, no.
So it's gone. It's upstairs. I'm trying to bring it back.
From the dead?
Yeah, well, I mean, not all of it's dead.
Okay.
So I pruned it, and so there's like 3 healthy leaves, and so I'm trying to get it back.
Much
So-
like God does to his people sometimes.
Gotta
Prunes
prune.
them.
Not his people. Doesn't he
Well,
prune other people?
Well, in the Old Testament, they're kind of all his people, yeah.
Submit that question if you want us to talk about that further. Well, Brent, we started a new sermon series, Did God Really Say? And today we're talking about, can God or will God give you more than you can handle? And so I wanted to ask you, this felt to me like a particularly masculine question, a particular situation that men find themselves in frequently. But has there been a time or a project or something in your life where at the outset you were 100% sure, oh, I can do this. I got this. I can handle this. And then about midway through the project, you realized, I do not got this. I cannot handle this. See, now you see what I meant by it being a masculine question.
Yeah. The one that comes most to mind, now I've probably had this happen a lot, and then it's just like, okay, I got to figure this out.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, you got to get some help, get some advice. Watch
That's
some
just like
YouTube.
when you got to call someone or
Yeah.
get on YouTube. Yeah.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Dad. You know? So probably my bathroom remodel. So we found out that our bathroom was like leaking a little bit and like out of the shower. And so like there was a little bit of wood rot. So like, well, let's just tear out the shower.
Is this the tile?
Yeah, I'll build a new one. We'll tile it. I was like, and so I'm talking about my wife, and I'm like, I think I can get it done in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think Ember was 2 when you started that project. I think she was 4 when
No,
it was
it wasn't
over.
that long, but probably like, so I said 2 weeks, and like 2 months later, I'm still going.
Oh, and I mean, like, I'd like text Brent. I'd be like, hey, what are y'all doing? He'd be like, I'm tiling my shower.
Oh man, the tiling.
Bro got the smallest tiles I've ever seen.
Oh yeah. And so it was took longer than I expected. And, you know, I just watched YouTube to death and had some people I had to call, and a couple people came over to kind of help me, show me some things. And so I was like, okay, I'm in over my head on this. This is a lot more than I expected.
Yeah, that's so funny. One time, this would be my answer. Me and my dad were trying to put a fan belt back on my car. And we didn't really know how to put on a belt. And it was pretty frustrating. We figured it out eventually. I don't know if it was YouTube or we called someone, but I mean, me and him both are just like on the ground under my car trying to put this belt back on. And it's not even like it's not even one of the more complicated, like timing belt. That's way more complicated.
Yeah.
Just fan belt, and we're like this thing was on that, like because it stretches so much, and so it was so crazy. But first, like, yeah, just put the belt back on those 2 little things. You're fine.
Yeah.
And then we went to their car, like trying to. I'm like, this is never gonna work. This is never gonna happen. Well, okay, let's talk about the actual sermon at hand. But before we do that, I felt like I was gonna do an ad.
I was like, what ad?
But before we do that, shout out to our sponsor, Lysol wipes. They're great. Disinfect. Use some today. Josh says Apple. That's our sponsor, Apple.
Tim Apple.
Thanks, Tim Apple. No, before we talk about the sermon itself, I always like to, when we start a new sermon series, I like to ask why this book of the Bible or why this topic. And so, did God really say? What was the motivation or the interest in covering these?
So it's been
truisms, falsisms. I don't even know what to call them.
Yeah, it's been a thought I've had for a couple years now to do something like this. I didn't know what it was called or exactly, like verses out of context.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. I've wanted to do it for a while.
I can do all things through a verse taken out of context. That's the name of the series.
Yeah. So I've thought about doing that. And so I've been thinking about it for a while. And then a couple months ago, I was out to dinner with some friends. And those friends were going through a difficult season of some things. And I don't remember exactly how it came up, but that phrase came up. And I think maybe they said, well, we got all this going on, but I know God won't give us more than we can handle. And I went, that's not in the Bible, right? And they're like, really? And so then we talked about it. And so that really just kind of propelled me into, okay, I think I need to do that. And
Yeah.
just kind of help us think through things that are not really true that we have culturally, for whatever reason, have begun to think are Christian or not.
Yeah. And why you talked about this in your sermon, but why is that so important, to not either attribute, something that is not, in the Bible to the Bible or to misunderstand what may already be in there?
Well, yeah.
Like what's the harm in me saying, hey, God's never going to give you more than you can handle?
Well, yeah. So like life and the decisions we make and how we address things and feel about things and everything is always downstream of what we think about God and the scriptures. And so if theology starts in our head, it ends in our hands. And so it's not just, we need to know the right things when we do, but it is also because it's going to affect how you live. And so if you think one way about something and the opposite happens in your life, you're going to be like, God doesn't love me. God's not there for me. He's ignoring me. It's going to lead you into deeper crisis.
Yeah.
And be unhelpful.
Yeah. Someone has told you God can't give you more than you can handle.
Yeah.
And you're at the point where you can't handle it. And you're like, well, either God hates me or he's not there. Right. Yeah. Which you talked about a little bit in your sermon. That just leads you to a misunderstanding about who God is, which isn't just like wrong information. It's not like getting a math problem wrong. It's like changes your desires. It changes how you talk, how you feel, all those things. Yeah, that's true. One thing you said that I thought was so interesting and just sort of the opening of your sermon was you talked about bumper sticker Christianity. What do you mean when you say that? I think I know what you mean, but I want.
Well, they're just these little phrases, and they're not all bad. But the one I think of right off the top of my head is no Jesus, no peace, and then it switches to K and O, and then no Jesus, no peace. Not that that's bad. That's kind of true or whatever. But just like these short little phrases or short little verses taken out of context. Like one of the ones I may do or may not do, I haven't said it yet, is when two or three are gathered. Right? Yeah. We use that all the time to talk about, hey, we get this little Bible study, or like, hey, we're just in our house together talking about the Lord, or whatever. And we try to sanctify or make holy this little thing we're doing by using that verse. It's like, y'all, that verse is about church discipline. And so
don't spoil it if you're going to do it.
But yeah, and so what was the question?
Like bumper sticker.
Oh, bumper stickers. Yeah. So just these little, like almost like fortune cookie sayings that we think are Christian. Like another one that is probably a super common phrase people think of is God helps those who help themselves. Right? Not in the Bible. But something people say and think or whatever. This one's not really good, but sometimes people think this is in the Bible, right? Like cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yeah. That's in Ben Franklin's Bible.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Poor Richard's
Almanac. And so just like these little things, these little phrases that can fit on a bumper sticker that aren't really true, but because they're these cute little sayings, we tend to think they're true.
Yeah. Well, and we almost use them as like an ID card, right? Or a calling card to say like, hey, we're in the club.
Yeah.
Like we're in the Christian club, right? I've got the thing on my wall that says like, in this house, we will serve the Lord or whatever. It's like we use it more to mark our outward identity. I think not realizing how much it can form us and change our thinking.
Yeah.
And so I think just like the idea of being a bumper sticker Christian, I think it really resonated with me. It's like, cause I know people, who it's like, they can use all the right language, they can say all the right things, but their belief is either so anemic, right? It doesn't change anything about their life, or it's just so wrong that their lives are totally out of whack.
Yeah.
So I think that idea really resonated with me, and it's like we're coming along doing this sermon series and saying, hey, we don't want to be that, right? Like we want to tell all the God's truth. We want to know all of God's truth.
Yeah, we don't want to be
all the right ways.
We don't want to be bumper sticker Christians. We want to be whole book Christians.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We want to have a actual understanding of what God has actually said.
Yeah.
Not just a fragile understanding of even stuff he didn't say. Yeah. So you talked about this last thing before we get into the actual can God give us more than we can handle. Meaning you talked about Eve in the garden and adding words to God's commands. Like, I think that is the perfect story I think, to set up this sermon series. And I think that's what you did in your introduction so well. So just kind of recap that. Why is that like the model?
Well, and
of
there are two things.
And that's the title, right? Did God really say? That's where that comes from.
Yeah. And so there are two things going on there to point out. One, that Satan is intentionally trying to bring doubt and confusion over the word of God.
Yeah.
What I didn't bring up, it was in my original manuscript when I cut it, was Jesus. So inside scoop here.
He does cut stuff.
When Jesus is tempted by Satan, he does the same thing. He takes the word of God and twists it.
Yeah.
Right? Throw yourself off this temple because the scripture says.
Yeah.
Right? So Satan's quoting the scriptures, and he's just twisting it a little bit. And so what Satan wants to do is confuse us and cause us to doubt the word of God. Like, does it really say that? Is that what he meant? Is that is that the right context? All those things. And so one, just understand that's what he's trying to do. And if we don't know it, then we will begin to doubt it or confuse it or mistake it or whatever. Then the other thing is that Eve she's really done what the Pharisees do, right? She's like added to it. She's like, it's not, for a modern day example, it's not just that you shouldn't get drunk, that you shouldn't drink.
Like, God said we shouldn't even touch it.
Yeah. Don't even look at that alcohol.
That's a good.
But no, God says don't eat it. They could have built a tree house up there, for all God cared.
Not very wise, but they could have.
Yeah. And so so don't add to it.
And what it leads to is disobedience. Right. What it leads to is ultimately death. Right. The misunderstanding of God's command. It wasn't just just some frivolous thing like, oh, oops, sorry.
Yeah.
No, it leads to disobedience, which leads to death.
I've never thought about this, but there's an interesting thing there to tease out about like.
Well, let's do it. That's what this is for.
the idea of fundamentalism leading eventually to rebellion, because fundamentalism being this, we've made up a lot of laws and rules and all this stuff, and it's real constrictive and real binding. And it's like, oh, I can't do anything. And then eventually, it's like, I got to get out of this. And you just go crazy and you run away. Versus like, no, actually, if you just understood God's laws as they are, they're actually freeing.
Yeah. And I think you even see that in the Gospels, right? When you have the Pharisees who are anti-Rome. It's like, Rome, stay out of our business. Rome, let us be, let us worship Yahweh, all this stuff. It's like, we want to be, as much distance between Judaism and being Romanism, romanticism as possible.
Yeah.
But then when their fundamentalism is being challenged, what do they immediately do? Hey, Rome, can you kill this dude? We don't like him. And so it's like, it turns into their strict keeping of the law actually turns into pragmatism, which turns into rebellion. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. Okay. So the saying, we've, already said it, God will never give you more than you can handle. So what you did in the sermon was you really started with, like, what are we talk about this when it's in terms of our burdens, right? In terms of our hardship or our suffering. So first, like, to answer the question, you got to determine, where do these burdens come from? What is the source of burdens? If God won't give you more than you can handle, does that mean God is giving my burdens, or God's only giving some of my burdens, but Satan's giving me more than I can handle?
God won't give you more, but Satan will.
Yeah. So you pointed to these three kind of main ideas that we don't have to go through individually. I think we can talk about them all together. Is that Satan and his demons can assault you? They can attack you. There's spiritual warfare going on. That the world is cursed and broken because of sin. So there's suffering because of sin. And then lastly, God is sovereign over all suffering. Sometimes he sends it, sometimes he allows it, but it's never without purpose. So just talk about a little bit about the source of suffering, the source of burdens, and how that affects, one, how we think about, does God give us more than we can handle? Then also just think about, our own lives, right? And when hardship comes, when suffering comes, how do we think through that?
Yeah. So wait, ask your question again. I started thinking while you were asking.
No, it's okay. So, like, you gave us kind of the source of burdens.
Yeah, the three things.
Yeah, and so, like, how does knowing the source, understanding the source of burdens, help us, one, make sense of the God will never give you more than you can handle kind of phrase? Like, how does it help us sort of unwind that? And then how does it help us when we do face suffering in our real life, turn to something or think about something or that's real, not this truism, falsism.
I got you. Okay. So, so the first part, like, why is it helpful to know where they come from? Well, you said this earlier today. It's like, in one sense, it doesn't matter where it comes from, because God is sovereign over all of it and allowing all of it, or has disallowed it. You don't even know about it. And so you can know, like, hey, whatever I'm going through is within the plan of God. God is using it for my good. I need to know. So that's true. The only time where it's kind of helpful to know, okay, what's going on here is like, is it discipline?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that.
So if it's discipline, it's like, okay, only the Lord disciplines. And so now I need to know, what am I being disciplined for? And what do I need to learn from that?
And honestly, one of the things that I would have, like, I want people to, when I talk about this, really understand is that sometimes your suffering is just your own sinfulness. Yeah. Like, it's natural consequences, right? Like, I was at home one time. My sister's a basketball coach. Her son was like climbing in the bleachers. He's like running up and down the stairs. And my sister was like, Jeter, don't run up and down the stairs. He didn't listen, fell down the stairs. And my sister did not bat an eye. She looked he's like crying at the bottom of the stairs. And my sister didn't bat an eye. She looked at me and she said, natural consequences. And I thought, that is me and my sin. Right? Some of the hardship, the burden, the suffering of my life is brought about because I'm running up and down the stairs and God's telling me not to. And I continue to do it. And so then it's like, it's at that point, God didn't come my sister didn't go push her son down the stairs to teach him a lesson. No, I fell or he fell, right? My metaphors are getting mixed. He fell down the stairs and it's like, he just faced the consequence. In the same way, you play with fire, you're going to get burned.
No, so that's certainly true. So if it's God's discipline, you want to know it. If it's your own if it's your own, sinful result, like, you got to know that. If it's like spiritual warfare, like, I don't know, that gets a little complicated. Like, there certainly could be a scenario in which it's helpful to know that. We don't have to go into that, but like, it could be helpful. I don't always know how to know it, but there have been interesting stories in our church of just like, particularly when people are taking steps of like radical obedience, and then it's like all this bad stuff starts happening to them.
But see, this is where I have a little hang up on this.
Okay,
because how do you know this is not God testing this newfound obedience?
Certainly,
right?
could be.
You got Job. Like, Job did not, like, Job righteous in God's eyes, right? He did nothing. And there's this testing going on, right? And so it's like, I just never.
God's allowing the testing, but it is still the devil doing.
Right, but I mean, ultimately, God's
but that's true of all of it.
No, of course, but so I don't. It just see even in situations like that, it's just like, I think of, yes, surely there's spiritual warfare, but I also think of the song we sing. Who sends the waves that bring us nigh? It's like, hey, you took a step of obedience. How about you take one more? Here's a challenge. Here's a and so even in situations like that, it's hard for me to say, oh, that this situation is the devil. This situation is God.
And
it's just hard. It's hard for me,
and it can be hard to know. So
maybe that's just a personal hang up. I don't know. It's just hard for me. It makes me feel like I'm out here and I can see all of it. Like, I obviously, like, in my own eyes, I can't see the spiritual warfare around me. But when I say, like, oh, this is the devil attacking me, it's like I'm taking this sort of like arrogant position of like, I'm outside of it and I can see it all, And but I'm actually just in it and I don't really know what's going on. So it's like, I just want to be like, hey, I don't know why this thing's hard, but like, God's going to see me through it. God's going to use it.
The only sense in which I can confidently say right now, it's like, when Jesus teaches us to pray, part of that is to protect us from the evil one, like deliver us from the evil one.
Or evil. Depending on how you translate it.
And so just that idea of like, just in our prayer life, Lord, protect me from him, from his doings, from temptation, whatever.
Well, and certainly I think in terms of temptation, I feel a little bit differently. It's like, because God doesn't tempt you. And so it's like, there's obviously internal temptation that is you, right? It's just your fallen nature. But I do think there's external temptations, but the calamity that's around us, right?
It's hard to know.
It's hard to know. But so thinking about God's sovereignty and all that, how does that challenge God won't give you more than you can handle? And start there. How does that challenge this idea that God won't give you more than you can handle? Or does it?
Well, there is a sense in which the word handle in this bad phrase is unhelpful.
Yeah.
Because what does it mean to handle it?
I don't know, but I love his Messiah.
Yeah. So that's one of the hard things.
Shout out jokes about the Renaissance or whatever that came out.
Yeah. So like, that's one of the weaknesses of this phrase.
Yeah.
Is that I don't know what it means to handle it, because like you think about the martyrs, right?
They handled it.
They died. Like,
or did they? Like,
did
right,
they?
did
Like,
they
what is
handle
it? So what does it mean? Like,
did Polycarp handle it?
Yeah.
Did God give Polycarp too much for him to handle?
They're like, you get arrested and you're being
you died. You failed. You didn't handle it.
So I don't know what it means to handle. Does it mean I can bear with my own strength?
That's actually a great point. It's like, what does it mean? Like, what do you mean God won't give you more than you can handle? Like, more that you like?
Yeah.
Like, well, then, he will. Like, Jesus says it multiple times. Yeah. But that is interesting.
So I just don't think that it actually makes sense even as a phrase when you break it down like that.
Yeah.
But when you understand the sovereignty of God in that, like you obviously see, hey, I got more going on than I can handle. Mm-hmm. So obviously because God is sovereign over Satan and the demons, the fallen world, everything, like the burdens that are on me are within the sovereign scope of God's plan. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I think your martyr point is interesting, because I don't think, the people that are saying that, in 2025 America, sort of evangelical circles, I'm not trying to like trivialize like the hard things people are going through, but it certainly was not as hard as like being stripped naked and put on a metal chair that had a pot of boiling water under it, and you like cooked on the chair until you died.
Yeah.
But God gave people that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a 14-year-old girl, like God, like she would profess their faith in Jesus, wouldn't renounce. And so that's what they did to her.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, but God won't give you more than you can handle.
Like, I can't handle that, God. Let me be honest.
And so it's, in a sense, it does feel trite for us to say when it's just like the hardship that we're going through can be so. Now, obviously, I'm not speaking to every situation, but some of the things we can get so worked up and upset about are trivial in the scope, the grand eternal scope of things.
Yeah, we still go home to our air conditioning, internet filled homes, and 2 cars, and like we got
absolutely
a lot going for our good.
And so I think understanding that in God's sovereignty, He deemed it necessary, good even, for there to be martyrs. That hey, God's sovereignty, He's actually deemed whatever this thing you're going through is, this hardship with your family or your friends or whatever, it's actually good and necessary, in the same way that people got fed to lions.
Yeah.
Was good and necessary for God's plan.
Yeah.
And so I think that's at least for me, that's a comforting thought.
Yeah.
Is that actually I've got it pretty easy, and God has given a lot harder stuff to a lot of other people. And so it actually just makes me more gracious to God that He's blessed me in so many ways. Yeah. And I'm not living under this illusion that God's giving me more than I can handle or whatever.
One of the, I didn't bring this out, but like one of the things we say, it's like, okay, God is sovereign over all of these things, is I did talk about, Israel going into exile. They're attacked by the Assyrians or the Babylonians, and they go into exile. Well, the text tells us that God raised up the Assyrian army.
Yeah.
And it's like His right hand, that He sends them to judge Israel and to send them into exile to teach them this lesson. The crazy thing is that then God judges the Assyrians for doing it, which is a whole nother thing.
Well, don't be godless. That's the lesson there.
Yeah. But just like, hey,
don't be pagan.
The point for me there is God can use anything.
He's orchestrating, right?
Yeah. And so like, it could be governments, it could be individuals, it could be the wind, like whatever. God is using all of it to do for His purposes. And
I think one thing, and I've said this before, I think on the podcast, but that I try to teach in youth is that, when we talk about God using hard things for His glory and for the good of those called according to His purpose, that doesn't mean you. Like it may be hard for you, but then actually benefit someone else.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you may not ever see any direct fruit or benefit from this hard thing you went through, but it may be able to enrich someone else's life or someone you don't even know.
Yeah.
Right? Like you know,
God is working good in their life through something hard he would send you through so he could send you to them.
yes. And so it's like, I know someone who's going through something hard. Then I meet someone 20 years later in my life who's going through that same hardship.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I knew this guy back, when I was younger and thinner, and I could, we can talk through that, And so it's like, but the person that went through it, they never know I had this conversation 20 years later.
Yeah.
And so just saying, never doubt the beauty of the tapestry that God's weaving is that all this hard stuff, you may never see the fruit from it, but you can trust because he promises that it's going to be for the good of those who are called according to his purposes. Yeah. That just may not be you. Yeah. It may be someone else who's called according to his purposes.
The good, you're going to get good too. It may come from someone else who went through something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we're kind of dancing around this, but one of your points, it was a question, right? As a follower of Jesus, how am I supposed to be able to handle the burdens, that God allows me to endure? And this is where you talked about self-sufficiency, right? And so it's like, how are we as Christians supposed to think about what I can handle? So before you go to your money line that you said here, that I already complimented you on off air, any thoughts generally on that about how are we supposed to handle the burdens, right? What's the misunderstanding we have?
Yeah.
Like, how do we handle stuff?
Well,
if you're listening, I'm doing air quotes every time I say handle.
When God created us, he created us for paradise. Mm-hmm. He created us for an environment where everything flourished and worked. And now we are, for lack of a better term, machines made for one world now operating in another that we weren't made for. And so
it's like if you brought a Windows computer into our office.
It wouldn't work.
It'd be like, it's like the internet sound.
And so everything is difficult and hard, and we can't handle really any of it. Mm-hmm. And it's not always strength. That's why I try to use multiple words here. Mm-hmm. It could be strength, it could be ability, it could be wisdom, discernment, whatever, and knowledge. And we just don't have enough to adequately navigate the world. And so we really can't handle any of those burdens. Mm-hmm. And the things we do handle, it's by the grace of God. And whether we realize it or not, it's by his grace that we are having friendships and we don't kill each other. Mm-hmm. And so apart from his grace, we would kill each other.
Yeah.
So we can't handle it.
I think it's interesting you say that, because I think I'm just having this thought now. It's like, if you look at data on anxiety, depression, violence, all that stuff, I don't like to do this like chronological snobbery game where like, oh, we were all way better back in the 60s or whatever. Yeah. It's like, we had our problems then, but you're talking about like the burden of the things around us, the circle of things we knew were wrong in the world in 1960, it was probably like this.
Small.
Well, it's like, even so, you go back further, you go to the 40s where, or the 30s, people don't have TVs. And you go fast forward to the 60s where you have war, these assassinations, and they're televised. Yeah. And you've got all this cultural discord.
Yeah.
And then you go like, so the weight of the burdens we were carrying got bigger because we were exposed to more. And so now, fast forward, where you've got the burdens of the world in your pocket at a moment's notice as they happen. Uh-huh. Like the other day, I got a news notification and it was like, 8.4 earthquake in wherever. And I'm like, why did you tell me that? Like, why did you feel the need to tell me about this earthquake? Like on my lock screen, like I'm just checking the time. I'm like, 1,000 people died and whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I think, our ability to handle stuff, I think we're seeing very clearly that we don't have it, because the burden of not just our families and our friends, but of the world, not just even our country, but like the world are being placed on us. And obviously, like, just go talk to people.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the stat I saw. I quoted this a while back, but like how I think it's like, maybe it's like 3 days. If like the government shut down, that it takes for us to basically turn into savages.
Whoa.
Like something like that. But like if everything stopped functioning.
Well, I mean, think about the grocery store. Think about the toilet paper.
In 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. For that crazy stomach virus we were getting.
It's for tissues.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
It's like
But people like selling them on eBay for like $100 or whatever.
Toilet paper here.
Yeah.
It's like, when things are now, we are all civilized right now because we have comfort and we have everything in ease. You take all that away and now survival is at stake.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to rip each other apart real quickly.
And our emotional lives.
Because we don't think we can handle it.
Yeah. Our emotional lives, we're not going to be in tip top shape, because there's going to be all this stuff we don't know how to handle.
Oh, yeah.
That we have to handle. And I'm just going to use the word handle like 5 times in this sentence. But we'll obviously understand that we are not able to handle the burden that's being placed on us. Yeah. Handle. Okay, so then you said this. And I wrote it down 5 times in my journal. No, I'm just kidding, just once. But you said self-sufficiency.
You got it.
Self-sufficiency turns you into a functional atheist. What do you mean by that?
So functionally, not in reality.
Yeah, not what you think, but in how you function.
But in how you're living. You are living as if the truth of the scriptures and of God, who He is and who you are, is not true. Mm-hmm. You're living as if you, in your own strength and ability and power and wisdom, have the ability to handle everything, to do everything, and you don't need to rely on God. And so functionally, you're like, God doesn't exist. I can do this all on my own.
Yeah, I turned to Darcy when you said that, and I said, man, I wish I had said that in my sermon about the church in Laodicea in the Revelation series, because that's what they do. Yeah, is they're like, we got this actually, but what they don't understand is that when they say, oh, I've actually got this, they're closing the door on Jesus. They're like, actually, we're actually done with you now. We don't need all that spiritual stuff anymore. We're actually all good. Yeah, and so I just think that was so. No one who's sitting in church on a Sunday morning wants to be. It's like the worst thing you could be equated to is an atheist. Right. It's like, I'm here. What are you talking about? Yeah. And to say like, oh, whoa. It's like, is my life different in terms of how I function from someone who doesn't believe what I believe? Yeah. I think that's striking. How do you recognize, if you are living in this sort of like self-sufficiency sort of mindset? Because I think you just slide into it. I don't think it's like one day you wake up and you're like, you know what? I'm self-sufficient. Yeah. I think it's like you slide into it. So what are some patterns or something that you can see look for in your own life to keep you from sliding into that self-sufficiency?
I think there is one particular glaring thing.
Oh, hit it.
And it is if you are not dependent and desperate in prayer. I think if you go a few days, like, I haven't prayed in a while. And not counting over dinner. That's good. Then you are functionally an atheist in the sense that you think you can just get up every day and go to work and live your life and you got all of this. By God's grace, He's maintained and allowed you to do these things. But I think if you're not, praying without ceasing regularly, always, just doing a lot of prayer, then that's where you're asking for help. And so when you're not asking for help, there's a problem. And I don't, and I mean, if you take out all of the prayers over meals and you take out all of the prayers for people who are sick.
Yeah. Like at church. Yeah. I'm not saying those are bad.
No, those are all good.
Keep doing those.
But if you take all the prayers for other people and things, take all those away, how much do you pray? And that shows you how dependent upon God you are.
And what are you either asking for, and then what are you thanking God for? Right.
Yeah. Are you recognizing the things that He's given and doing in your life and being thankful for? I told Brad this week. Brad asked me to pray for him, and then the thing we prayed about got answered like within an hour. And I texted him later, and I said, "Man, one of the things that's been really crazy for me in the past month is I've been acutely aware of a lot of different things I was praying about, watching them be fulfilled. God answered those things, and it was just like, whoa, God's listening." And then here's
the thing. I think people hear that story and they think, but that never happens to me. And I bet it's because you're not praying.
Or you don't write them down.
Yeah. One of the two. Right?
You forget you prayed for it.
But I used to have that attitude where it's like, people always tell me these stories. It's because I wasn't praying for anything. I wasn't praying for anyone. I wasn't praying for anything particular in my life. Probably wasn't praying at all. Yeah. So it's like, people always say this stuff, like they pray and then it gets answered. It's like, it's just never like, it's like, just try it.
And I also think a lot of times people say, oh yeah, we've been praying for that. And they actually haven't. They've been thinking.
Yes.
They've been thinking about it.
I wrote down something in my D group book this last week where it was like, I can't even remember the prompt. It was just like something you could do this week.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was like, how can you love someone well this week?
Yeah.
And I said, the first thing I wrote down was, let them know that I'm praying for them.
Uh-huh.
And then I put in parentheses, but then also actually pray for them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think sometimes we're better at the just like telling people, I'm praying for you, than we are the actual praying for them.
Yeah. This is a little tangential, but just another interesting thing that I've discovered in my life. There are these moments, and I think the Bible would call this like just the gift of discernment, maybe. But and two kind of ways to think about discernment, but that like someone will pop in my mind, and I'll ignore it. Like, well, I thought about I should reach out to them, or I should do this. I ignore it, and then something happens, and it's like, oh crap, I should have reached out. And so now, I started like every time that happened, I started listening to it, or him, maybe, I don't know, and responding, reaching out, doing whatever the thing was, and then seeing all this fruit from that. It's like, maybe I'll start listening to that and praying for that person or whatever. Because some of them, it's like, hey, here's this thing, and so I stop, pray for that thing, and then it happens.
Gosh,
and so
that's good.
So all that to say, if you're not praying, you're not dependent on God. Therefore, you think you're strong enough to handle the things in your life.
Yeah.
And I don't just
functionally.
mean sometimes it's like when the really bad things happen, when things start just falling apart and whatever that looks like, we start praying. But like when you have just an average day, do you think
when everything's like a B,
do you think you are dependent upon God or not? Because if you're not praying, you don't think you're dependent on God. You think you can pretty much do all these things in your life just fine. But that's not true. God, by His grace, is allowing you to do and sustaining you and helping you without you realizing it. And so what you really should realize is that you are really dependent on God, and you should be pleading with God for all the things.
Yeah. Well, it's like back to the Lord's Prayer. You mentioned the Lord's Prayer earlier. Give us, Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread.
Yeah.
It's like when you put a morsel of food to your mouth, no matter how big, how small, how good, or how bad, it's a gift from God.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so, but when we say that, right, we're like, oh yeah, God, thanks for my food and my house or whatever. But it's like, do you actually believe that without God's grace, God's generosity, you would be in the house?
No.
Or you would be eating the food, or you would be whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of us, we say like, yeah, God gave me everything. But then we're like, this is actually my food and I earned it.
Well, a lot of times we think, well, I worked hard. I went to school. I got the job. I put in the hours. It's like, God gave you the health to do that. He gave you the money to go to school. He gave you.
There's probably people that did all that and are homeless.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you actually, it's like you don't exist in a vacuum. You didn't fall out of a coconut tree. like God is the one that gave you the things you needed.
Just quoted Kamala Harris on the podcast.
Oh, don't expose me like that. Don't expose me like that. That was for those who know. That was for those who know the coconut tree lore. Okay. I'm making greens in my bathtub. Oh, golly, I'm so thrown off. Okay. So we've established we're not self-sufficient, right? We can't handle stuff. We're not you said we're not self-sufficient creatures capable of handling, air quotes, the burdens thrown at us. So outside of prayer, which is already talked about, what practices can help us cultivate postures of dependence instead of relying on our own strength? Prayer, obviously, because that one takes a recognition that you're dependent on God.
Yeah. I think that's like 95% of it. But if I had to give it any more percentage of it, like,
dude, I'll tell you one you're not going to like.
Okay.
Fasting.
Oh, no, that is true because
the reason Brent doesn't like it because Brent likes to eat.
Brent ain't good at it.
But is it? This is what. Okay, this is. Can you hand me my soapbox? Thanks. It's very small. I hate when people talk about that they're hangry.
Okay.
It actually when Christians do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're actually showing your cards here.
Oh.
That your peace relies in your feelings.
Oh.
And it's like your patience relies on your feelings. And because you don't feel good when you don't eat, you're less patient. You're less kind. Like you're telling me the fruit, it's not the fruit of the spirit. It's the fruit of your lunch. It's the fruit of your dinner, right? No. And so it's like, it drives me nuts When people are like,
that's a good word,
when people are
man.
like, hey, please, hey, I know I was like kind of harsh with you the other day. I think I was just hangry. And I was like, no, I think you're just sinning against me.
Yeah.
Like, I think,
You need to beat your body and make it a slave.
yeah, like train yourself for godliness, right? It's like discipline yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what fasting does.
Oh, and it exposes you.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That's true.
And because
I'm a slave.
when you replace it, right? When you say, God, I'm not going to eat food. I'm going to eat your word. I thought I brought Eat This Book down for a second by Eugene Peterson. No. I'm going to feast on your word. I'm going to dine at your table, right? Come to you in prayer, and say, I'm going to let that fulfill me. Let that sustain me. There's real power to that. And we've forgotten that, me included.
Oh yeah. Now every time I have fasted or I've attempted
And I
to
mean
fast,
from food, by the way.
that's the only way you can fast.
I know, but some people are like, I fast from social media. I'm like, that's probably good. You're taking a break.
Yeah.
But fasting, particularly from food,
Yeah.
is
Every time I do it, it's like, oh, I am a slave to eating. It's like I can miss one meal and be okay. But the time that second meal comes, be okay. Like the first meal I miss, it's like, oh, okay, I'm hungry. I'm thinking about, that's all you do is think about food the whole day. All you think. But when it comes to that second meal, if I don't eat it, it's like I start getting dizzy and light. Everything starts going crazy.
Yeah. So
Now-
I think that's what I would say is another practice.
Here's a fun fact. Nathan has gone, is it 13 days?
Something stupid.
Maybe more than
dumb.
that. Like
My mom listens to this. Can't say that word.
I think it's 13. We'll have to double. Maybe that was what he did recently. Maybe it's like 16 or 8. I can't remember. A long time without eating.
I know
he drank black coffee and water.
I know a guy who went 40.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But
that is crazy.
yeah, Nathan's a machine.
But I'll be honest, I don't know how spiritual it was.
No, it was just it wasn't spiritual. That's why I'm telling people.
Yeah.
Because if it was spiritual, I would keep it a secret.
Whoa, bro, that's like that's some Sermon on the Mount stuff right there.
Yeah.
That's good. So fasting and prayer, I think, are both. And I think scripture reading, obviously there's some level of dependence. That's like, hey, I don't know, you know. So I need your knowledge.
And in the specifics of prayer, giving thanksgiving is part of
Yes.
God, I'm actually like listening to the things you're thankful for is like a recognition of these are gifts.
Yeah. They teach us at camp, ACTS, ACTS, adoration, praise God for who he is, right?
Confession,
thanksgiving, and supplication, right? Then ask.
No one knows what the word
what you need.
supplication means.
Yeah. It means to supplicate.
Explain it to me like I'm 12.
Ask for.
Okay.
I thought that's what you did at the end of the night, at the last meal of the day.
Supplicate?
Supplicate.
Supper?
Hey guys, will you
Supplicate?
come supplicate with me? To eat supper with someone is to supplicate with them. So your last kind of 2 points, let's take them together. God actually gives us more than we can handle to deliver us from the illusion that we can do this life without him. We've kind of, I think, been talking about that.
God is breaking you of self-sufficiency
Yeah.
to dependency.
Yeah. It's like in Laodicea, right? When he's like, I want to give you no, he says, you think you're rich, but you're actually wretched, blind, naked, foolish, right? He's just like, I actually want to, like, you think this about yourself, but I actually want to show you what you're really like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't remember if it was you or someone else who told me this, but it was like, that's so cool. Reading through John in our D group book, when the blind guy and he puts
me.
Puts the mud on his
That
eyes.
was in the last podcast, 2 podcasts.
Oh,
ago.
and he talks about washing the world away. Man, that was good. I don't know if that's like actually what he was doing, but I hope it is. That was good. And so yeah, he's washing away from our sight this idea that we're dependent, opening our eyes to our need of him.
And then so last point, God will not give you more than he can handle.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What's that about? That sounds just like the first thing, just maybe a little different. So why is it different?
It's different because
I'm just being devil's advocate. I ain't advocating for the devil.
when you realize that you've got all these burdens and you give them to the Lord, so to speak, you rely on the Lord, you go to him in constant prayer, and you just trust in him. You give it to God. Then you know that no matter what you face, God can and will. It's like the 2 Corinthians passage I quoted. Like God did all these things to cause us to rely on him, and he delivered us, and we know he will deliver us again. Or it's even like a little bit Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. We know that God can deliver us from you, O King. But even if he doesn't, it's like he'll deliver, even if it means we die, he's still going to deliver us. And so whatever I'm going through, like God, this is the God who has parted the sea, raised the dead, water from like all those things.
It's funny. Like I thought you would maybe talk about this a little bit, but at the end of Job, Job has been hanging out with his buddies, and they've been kind of like.
No one knows the end of Job. People only know the beginning of Job.
Are you kidding me? The end is the best part. when Job finally gets to talk to God, and God's like, "Oh, you were there when I put the waters in the sea. You were there when I placed the stars in there." And he's like just showing him like you don't understand how powerful, how masterful, how beautiful, how all these things
how
I
complicated.
Am. Yeah, it's like you don't understand any of this.
Yeah. Do you know that song, Where Were You by, hey, y'all go listen to this song called Where Were You by, is it Ghost Ship?
Yes. I was thinking it was Derek Webb's band, but no, it's Ghost Ship. Yep.
Where Were You, so Ghost Ship? It starts off with a question by Job, and then it's God's response, and then it ends, and it goes, Job goes back and he says, I basically,
I'm trying to remember.
I asked her things I did not understand.
Yes.
That were too whatever for me. Basically, I get it, God.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, and I think.
The beginning of that is also awesome. It's in Job 38. He says, dress for action like a man. You will sit and I will tell you. And then he starts listening to all those things you just said. It's almost like, all right, Job, put a cup on because you're getting ready. You're ready to get it.
But I think, earlier we were talking about the sort of ambiguity about like, what does it mean handle it? What does it mean like, I think when you say it's like God won't give you more than he can handle, the ambiguity's gone because God can handle everything. Yeah. And so it's like, hey, if you're dealing with it, God's got it. Yeah. And so I think that's why it's superior to God won't give you more than you can handle, because it's not about your strength, your power, your intelligence, wisdom, whatever. It's about his. Any final words before you answer this question?
Oh, question.
Yeah.
Love a question.
So no final words.
No.
Okay. Here's the question. Someone wrote in, you're talking about Satan going to ask permission to test Job. So this person says, what's the scope of Satan's operational discretion at this point?
Oh, fascinating question.
So what can he do to us or allow to come upon us without asking God for permission? Like, does Satan have to ask for permission if he wants to come mess with me? Did he have to go ask for permission to come mess with Judas?
Yeah. So let me give a caveat and then an answer.
Okay.
I have no idea.
But he's still going to give an answer, folks.
Here's my best guess.
Okay.
Based on the Job text and maybe other things. In the Job text, there's a hedge around him that's protecting him.
Not a hedge of protection.
Yeah, we got a big argument at lunch. We got a discussion at lunch.
A hedge that is protecting Job.
Yeah. So let's say, for example,
that Satan's worst enemy is a shrubbery line was so funny.
You know where I got that from, right?
No.
Oh, that's that Christian comedian
Tim Hawkins.
Yeah,
that's so funny, dude.
But so there, let's just say this area of Job's life had the hedge around it, and this area didn't. Well, then Satan can just freely attack this area because God has not put the protection over that area, and so it's free game in a sense. Now certainly God has the power to just like, all right, now it's protected or whatever, or all right, Satan, back off or whatever. And so it's always within the parameters of what God is allowing. I don't know that Satan functionally or the demons functionally have to go to God and ask for permission every time, but I do think maybe it's like, oh, hey, here's protected area. Maybe and this is interesting about the prayer thing. What if when the prayers are coming in to protect someone, it actually does protect them? God is protecting them because of the prayers of his people. And so now Satan and his demons can't get at that.
It's like a prayer force field.
Like a prayer field. I don't know. Just guessing. But so
I have zero idea. So honestly, it seems to me like Satan has pretty free, what appears to him to be free reign, but not understanding that he's actually bound like to God's will.
Yeah.
Like he only goes and does where God actually wants him to go and do what God wants him to do.
Yeah. And the mysterious sovereign.
Yeah. Like,
orchestration of
it's
God.
like Satan's like trying to like do like double, triple, reverse psychology on God. And God's just like, no, that's what I wanted you to do the whole time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You played right into my hands.
You can't outsmart God.
You played right into my hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I'll do triple reverse psychology next time.
But certainly, like within that question, like for Christians, like I don't think Christians can be possessed. I do think Christians can be like influenced and tempted, and sometimes we use the word oppressed, particularly if you open yourself up to those things. And Matt Chandler always says it like if you're around a Ouija board, where it's like you're going to get a demon on you, and so like you can put yourself in those positions where you open yourself up to those things. Whatever that means.
What do you think about this? Is totally off the cuff. What do you think about like people like will go to these like moon ceremonies and stuff, like on full moons or harvest moons, to like refill their crystals and stuff? Do you think that's like
I think
pagan and demonic?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too.
I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Me neither, dude.
Like here's the hard part about this. You've got what the Bible says about some of these things, and then you've got what people have experienced and they've told you. It's even people you respect and trust. Read books about these things or whatever. And so the Bible, it's like, I take these things as this is what it is. These other things, you take them with a grain of salt. Maybe, maybe not. I've not experienced it myself to say. And so, you hear these stories about people, I've listened to a lot of interviews recently about ex-witches and naturalist people who are doing the crystals and stuff. And the way they talk about it, they're Christians now, and they're like, oh yeah, demonic, talk to demons, like got introduced, like through all that craziness. And it's like they open themselves up to those realities by playing with Ouija boards or crystals or whatever. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I ain't going to go find out. So,
and I would caution you to not go find out. Yeah. That's a good word. Don't mess around.
Yeah.
Don't play.
And at that point, like that reality is real. Sometimes we act like, oh, that stuff's not real or whatever.
Well, it's like they sell Ouija, like Hasbro, like sells Ouija boards, like in plastic wrappers in a box at Walmart.
Yeah.
Now it's like we're like, yeah, it's like not a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
So biblical evidence. Saul goes to the witch of Endor.
This is a crazy story.
Goes to the witch of Endor.
This is the weirdest story in the Bible.
I don't know if it's 1st or 2nd Samuel. And Saul's like, hey, I need to talk to Samuel. And I think he's in disguise. And the witch is like, I can't do that under the decree of the king. He says, I can't do it. He's like, I got permission. Don't worry about that. And she does it. She brings Samuel back from the dead as ghost form. And Saul talks to him.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's real.
And it's also weird that she's on that planet from Star Wars.
Endor. And then also, like you look at, when we went through Exodus, Moses throws down a stick, turns into a snake, turns the river to blood.
And it's like they're not pretending, right?
Yeah. So the Egyptian magicians, they're like, that's not a big deal. We can do that too. Well, they've got power. The source is different, but so that crap's real. Stay away from it.
Yeah. So he can't attack you directly. He can tempt you. He can persuade you.
We can attack you. He can't possess you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just I'm saying direct, like, yeah. But there does seem to be some protections, but don't ask for it. Don't ask for it. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, there's a hedge somewhere. Pray for a hedge.
Pray for a hedge. The shrubbery line is so good, and it makes me think of Monty Python. Bring us a shrubbery.
Yeah,
we request a shrubbery. All right, you got any last words, or are we ending on bring us a shrubbery?
We're ending on bring us a shrubbery.
Well,
it's only a flesh wound.
Thanks for joining us for the recap. We hope this conversation has encouraged you to keep striving to make Jesus essential in every aspect of your life. If you aren't a part of our church family, we'd love to meet you on a Sunday morning. We gather for worship at 10:30 a.m. For more information, you can always go to myfellowship.church. Thanks for listening. Be blessed.